Welcome back, everyone, to a additional episode of the Bell Ringers podcast, the House of the Dragon reviews. This is episode 3 of the second season, episode Burning Mill, directed by Geeta Vasant Patel and written by Sarah Hess.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Very Game of Thrones esque episode. A lot of communication, a lot of moves being made, just all comms, which is just we love to see. It's what we
yeah.
loved about Game of Thrones.
Well, slight spoiler, but I know the next episode's Dance of Dragons, so
Right.
next episode's going to be the basically the exact opposite of this, and just
Yeah.
probably a
Which
lot
we
of fighting.
also love to see as well.
Get to actually see dragon on dragon fights that we haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen since I guess the end of Game of Thrones. So that'd be cool. Well, I guess we saw one little fight as Luke died, but I
Yeah.
might count that as a fight.
It was intense though. But to just dive right into this episode,
Well,
I
we
believe
did
it's
finally get a new addition to the tapestry in the beginning of the intro because they put the funeral of Jaehaerys and like
mm-hmm.
his there was like a slit through his neck, and then we
Yeah.
get the rat catchers being hung. So
Yeah,
I'm
they
glad
showed
they're at least
Jaehaerys.
updating that throughout the season.
Yeah,
I
which
wonder if they're gonna keep that as the
mhm.
series goes on, but I don't even know how much longer this series has. Because I gotta imagine, I mean, after this war, I don't think they're gonna keep going too much long after that.
Well, it's already been renewed for a second season. We know that.
Well, you mean a third?
Third season.
This is the
No,
second season.
yes, third season. Another season is what I should have said. It's already been renewed for another season. Which kind of makes me gets me excited because you really don't know what you're gonna get for each episode. Like I said, if they're doing a whole nother season, I would assume the war it can't be wrapped up like this. I think this show is gonna be this whole war and like this whole conflict
Yeah.
going on with these families. I don't see them doing another time jump after the war.
No, but that's
Like I think
like
it's gonna end when this whole war ends, and then we
yeah.
have somebody on the throne.
That's what I mean.
But
Like I don't
it's
like. I
with
mean, I
it
know
being
this.
stretched out like this, I do like it. Like I think you don't really know when conflicts are gonna come up. We're like they might push for more episodes like this and really dissect how plans are being made, which I have no
Yeah.
problem with.
I mean, I know. I'm pretty sure this season's only 8 episodes, so I'd imagine the third would probably be about the same, and they're just gonna keep it
Mm-hmm.
kind of shorter compared to the original Game of Thrones. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess we start with the Brackens and the Blackwoods fighting about boundary stones. A
Mm-hmm.
simple fight. Uh,
Your
Benji,
Bracken cows are eating my Blackwood grass.
yeah, and
It's so absurd.
it's funny because he's like we didn't move those, and then like he's like this is Brackenland. So you're kind of just saying that you did move them. Like you're stating like oh this is Brackenland. It's like oh so you're saying you moved it or like
Yeah.
you want to move it.
We didn't move them, but technically that's our land.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Okay,
Get
buddy.
that little scuffle between I don't know what his name is, the Bracken kid. We
Uh
get him
yeah.
fighting with Benji the Bloody, or Bloody
No,
Ben.
no, that is not Benji the Bloody. Yeah, it's not. We kind of got confirmed on that. I
Oh,
like we didn't talk about it last episode, but I've been texting Ryan excited because it seemed like all of TikTok was like, and all the readers on TikTok are getting insanely hype
yeah,
about this kid being casted because he does look like what the
the
depiction
kids.
of
Okay,
Benji the Bloody in the book was,
okay.
but they I believe they said his name was Darius Blackwood,
Oh yeah,
and
cause he's the kid. Cause what was it? Was Benji the one that we did see in season one, or is this? So was it confirmed because we know
no,
that one
that
wasn't
wasn't
Ben?
Benji as well. That was Samuel Blackwood, who was the head of the Blackwoods who just died in the Burning Mill battle. So
He died. He was like
Benji, this guy that
12.
we're excited about, Benji Blackwood, he with Samuel Blackwood dying in the Battle of the Burning Mill, which we jump right to after
Yeah.
the small conflict. Benji Blackwood his name's Benji Cott. Benji Cott Blackwood becomes the head of the Blackwood family at 11 years old.
Oh okay.
So he's a little run. That definitely that when
Well, I
I
mean
heard about that, I'm like,
Samuel would have if he was if that was the one that we saw in season one, he would have also gotten it probably when he was like 13 because he was like 7. Like he was not old
yeah.
when we saw him in
Well, I was
season
gonna
one,
say we
so
don't
he would have
exactly
had
know how old he was at that time of
yeah, but he
when
looked
he was trying
small.
to.
He could not have been older than like 10 years old.
Yeah, we can probably. I would say 12 or so. Do we remember how big of an age jump we go through from when Rhaenyra was a kid to adult Rhaenyra? Like
I
how
mean,
long did we jump?
I'm I can't. I mean, can't imagine that long, but I mean, I'm guessing Aegon might be like 16. So I can't imagine it'd be 16 years though. Are we actually thinking like Rhaenyra's like 30 almost?
I would say
I,
she's like mid 20s.
yeah, but that would mean Aegon would be like 10. Because
Then
I mean,
no,
like the jump was basically like Aegon's like growing up.
right. When she was an adult, hold on. When she when the kids were like teenagers, weren't they already looking like an adult? So didn't we have two jumps?
Yeah,
So if those kids, if we jumped like
like it
it
couldn't have
went
been
from
more than
young
four. It
Rhaenyra to
couldn't have been
them
more
being
than like
like 12
14
or
years.
so, I think Rhaenyra might be like close to 30.
Yeah, but yeah, mid to late 30 or mid to late 20s. But
So if that kid met Rhaenyra when he was, we'll say 10,
I guess he could have been like 24 then.
yeah, he was probably 24. So had a kid young, little Benjicott Blackwood. Actually had twins as a sister as well. And Benjicott become with Samwell Blackwood, who was that little kid that we saw trying to win Rhaenyra's hand when she was 16. He dies in that battle that they just kind of glance over. He dies in that battle. They discuss it at the small council meeting, but him dying appoints 11 or 12-year-old Benjicott Blackwood to be the head of the Blackwoods, who I hope we see this season. I don't know for sure because I'm not like I don't.
Well, yeah, we have
I
no idea what we're gonna actually see.
We have no clue. Yeah, and we I don't know if we're gonna get another jump. I think this
I don't. I
kid.
I think they've stated before that like we're getting no more jumps, which is
Okay.
good. Because like I mean, at
Yeah.
that point you're like you're gonna be like this whole thing is gonna be the war. Like there's no need for jumps anymore.
Right.
This should be
I'm
like
just
the most
curious.
impactful and the most like eventful times.
I'm just curious with like I don't know. I'm trying not to spoil too much, but this little kid that's gonna take over the Blackwood family, his nickname, like Ryan said earlier, is Bloody Ben, and he's like a psycho when he goes into battle and is like is very successful. I'm curious how they're gonna cast a 12-year-old to be like a badass in battle.
I mean,
Like, how old is he gonna look? Is what I'm asking.
Ileana Mormont was a
Yeah,
badass when she
yeah,
killed a giant. So I don't think
that's true.
it was not the first time they would do it.
Yeah,
I
you're
mean,
right.
I gotta imagine we're gonna see him probably because I think sometime this season we're gonna see like I mean it might be next episode when we see more fighting around the Riverlands. As
Yeah, I
Kristen
think we
Cole,
will too.
because
With Damon heading to the Tullys, I think we're gonna see Riverland like
well that and Kristen
feuds.
Cole's I mean I kind of
Cole's heading there too. Yeah, you're
yeah I
absolutely
kind
right.
of there's it's like two scenes ahead, but yeah Kristen Cole wants to ride up to the Riverlands and kind of make sure everyone's on their side. But before that we do have a little. I mean, I've heard people were upset that we didn't actually get to see the battle, but I understand like we can't see everyone.
Yeah.
And yeah, that scene or just like that depiction of like all the dead bodies was enough. I would have liked to see some of it, but I understand they weren't going to show us like 30 seconds of it and then the end. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of either get the whole thing or you don't. But I did think it was kind of cool. I mean, not cool, but like it was like a good like depiction of like the we saw like the kid that the one Blackwood kid was fighting, the one Bracken kid. He like pulled out his sword and we saw a little bit of the hilt, and then we see his dead body with clearly the sword he pulled out in his neck.
Yeah.
So he was killed by his own sword, which I thought was kind of
It's a cool little nod.
yeah. And like it's like
Um.
oh like you clearly weren't even in that good battle. Where I mean who knows how long you lasted, but it's like you got killed by your own sword. That's probably not a good sign.
Right. I'd agree. We then jump to the burial of Sir Eric and Sir Arik, and I mean just glancing over this scene, really, we have a good discussion between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys.
Yep.
But like off the rip, Jace is pissed off that they're getting buried together. He's pissed that like they're good guys getting buried with this shameful act, which
The traitor. Yeah.
Rhaenyra defends. He's holding his oath. You can't blame him. But if you want to touch on the conversation between Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, I
Yeah.
liked a lot of that.
I mean, first I just want to say the dude burying that was struggling. That dude could
Yeah,
not lift a shovel. I feel. I mean, he was by himself, but like he was not picking
I,
that dirt up well.
if you looked at the shovel, I wanted to take notice
Yeah, it
too
was
because
like
I
a
remember we
stick,
talked
just
about
like with
this.
like, but like
The shovel was like a flat little piece of metal, and it was like looked like it was branches that it was
yeah,
like
but
one
still,
thick branch, and yeah, he would literally was going like very
he like
light
trying to he
loads.
like stabbed like the pile like 3 times to get like two rocks and be like, eh.
Yeah,
And I'm like that's not doing anything. I don't know how much of that was just they didn't want to throw actual dirt on two people that aren't actually like the actors aren't dead, so they're just laying there. I don't know how much they were like, oh, maybe that's just not throw rocks on these guys.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, yeah. So basically, like Rhaenys, I guess, wants and like says that Allison, like she sees that Allison probably doesn't, or believes that Allison doesn't want the war and would rather peacefully go, and wants Rhaenyra to kind of reach out to her, and Rhaenyra mentions that like she did send a raven, but like she's not gonna answer it. Like they usurped her throne, and she blames Allison for sending up the like like Sir Arik to try and like kill her. But then I think Rhaenys is like, this is like pretty telltale sign that like her and Otto are no longer probably the ones at the head of the planning, and this is
Right.
probably like, oh, like hotter blood has prevailed.
Right.
And then um but I mean, yeah, Rhaenys is trying to get her to want to reach out, because I mean that's right now it's the only way to get that. And because we keep seeing later on in the council with like the blacks, everyone wants her to just take the dragons out and just go fight. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems like they're the only two that don't want to do that and want to try and find some peaceful way. It's like the only the I mean, other than the Greens, the Targaryens are the only ones that don't want to take their dragons out. Everyone else wants them. I mean, I don't know how much it's just them wanting to save their own skin and not die in a fight. Just
Yeah.
being like, oh, like you guys go fight it. Like you guys are the ones with dragons. You guys go fight it, and then we'll just be here when it's all over and pick up the pieces.
Yeah. Also, I would say too with Rhaenys and or not Rhaenys, Rhaenyra and Allison being two people that kind of don't want this war to be involved the dragons. You have to think too. These are like two mothers who they know that like Allison, especially all three of her kids are their only dragon riders.
Yeah,
So like that, you're putting all three of your kids
yeah,
at risk and your claim to the throne and
yeah,
all like. And then Rhaenyra obviously already lost one to a dragon fight. Has Jace who seems eager to help and is worried about him. Is really trying to
yeah,
shut him down from doing anything with the dragons and is trying to avoid this massacre
yeah.
all in
And I mean,
all.
and like they are a family still. Like technically, they're
Right.
still like, I mean, however you want to call it, cousins, sisters, brothers, whatever
Mm-hmm.
weird way we're distinguishing that, because they're technically both. But then like Allison and Rhaenyra were also like best friends, and I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of people, and I kind of get some of it. Like some people are saying that there was some like I don't know,
Some
I guess
passion.
yeah, some passion, sexual tension between Rhaenyra and Allison as kids.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely still love there. So I think the idea is like they don't want to fight each other necessarily. And Allison in the beginning of the season so far, it just kept being like, oh, like let's send more ravens to Rhaenyra. Like she'll get one of them. She'll respond. Like
Yeah.
it'll be fine.
One line Rainey says at the end of this conversation that I loved was, "There's no war more shameful to the
Oh yeah,
gods than one between kin, and not one more bloody than one between dragons." Which
yeah, that was a good one. Which
nail
yeah,
in the
is pretty
coffin right
yeah.
there. Like that is absolutely right. Love to hear it. Um, where do we go next?
We get Kristen Cole's new
Oh
Hand of the King necklace, which I thought was pretty cool. A cool way they did it, because like we were kind of wondering what they were gonna do. Would it be like a breastplate kind of thing? Because
yeah.
clearly
Mm-hmm.
you're not gonna be able to pin that on a
Yeah.
breastplate. And like I didn't think he was gonna take his armor off. But it's a cool little necklace. Which I don't know if we've seen that before. I don't know if anyone had that during Game of Thrones, but I don't, not that I remember. I thought that was kind of cool.
I was
He's
curious whether he could still remain head of the King's Guard while also being hand of the King. I didn't know if you could hold both those positions at the same time. It seems like he
I
is.
think I've heard through some of the book readers that wouldn't be the first time, or like at least
No.
that's not the only time we've seen it. Whether it happens in the future or it has happened in the past, it's not the only time.
I mean, yeah, I can
But
see any king that's like big on the war.
yeah,
Excuse me, war and violence, wanting his like
yeah,
next strongest
yeah.
guy being the advisor.
But then we get like someone comes in and basically asks if Kristen's ready, because like they must be waiting on him. He walks past two new Kingsguard, which are two of the buddies that Aegon had, and they're just like lounging around, sitting down. And I think Kristen Cole is now like, you can tell like he didn't say anything, but he's upset. Like he got upset at Sir Arik for having dirt on his cloak, but these dudes are quite literally just sitting and like relaxing on the job.
Yeah.
So I think he's kind of like, he's like, who are these guys? I didn't appoint them. I'm the Lord of, or like the head of the Kingsguard. This doesn't make sense. Shows up late to the council meeting. Kind of says he's out. Sorry for being late. And I think he does mention like, oh yeah, I see you appointed new Kingsguard, and Aegon's like, yeah, well we needed to, which is not wrong, but maybe pick some better guys that are,
No, he picked his buddies that he was
yeah,
drinking with, and
yeah,
like
which they're clearly not the best company to have do that.
nah, no
Which
respect for the position.
we kind of see more of that later. But in this, I mean, he kind of gets blamed for Sir Ark, which he's at fault for. He's like, oh yeah,
Right.
that didn't go well. Like the war is clearly gonna start now because you did that.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, like he tried, he failed. It's not my fault. It's like, yeah, it kind of partially
Yeah.
is.
It was a rushed attempt. It was
Yeah.
not a thought out process. Yeah. Allison definitely threw some shade on him in that conversation.
Then like we get, I think Aemon's the one that brings up the fact that like the battle happened and
Yeah.
like Lord Samwell Blackwood was slain in the battle, which Aegon's like, oh, like nice, the first blood in our name. But then they're like, well, it's not like both sides lost a lot of people, so I don't know how much we can take this as a victory.
Right.
And this is when we get Kristen Cole's like idea like, oh, I'll go right up to the Riverlands with a couple guys and make sure that like everything's sound.
Yeah. He wants to
Aegon,
meet with the Brackens
yeah,
and to take Harrenhal with them.
yeah. Aegon wants him to go with Vagar, who Kristen
Cole
says,
shuts down.
yeah, yeah, shuts down and says like, no, they need to be back here to protect the city. Then he goes, oh well, then I'll go. Which then
Me
Aemon
and
shuts,
Sunfire will
yeah,
accompany you
Aemon
then.
shuts down. It's like, no, like you need to be here. Like you're the king, you can't go. Like I think you
Yeah.
said like it's a brave sacrifice or a brave um idea, but you need to
Yeah.
be here. I think
Well,
Aegon,
Aegon's reasoning is like, what happens if you run into a dragon then? And
yeah,
Aemon goes, more the reason that you shouldn't be there. We cannot risk losing
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Like losing Cole
yeah,
in like 20 men is one thing, but
yeah.
if they
Lose,
show up
yeah,
with two dragons and we lose the king, the war's over.
yeah. And Aegon just kind of sees this as like, oh, like, what do you think? I'm not strong? Do you think I'm not
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not able to win? Like I can win that.
yeah. The insecurity is really coming out.
Oh yeah,
And what's he say? I'm as fierce as any of them.
yeah. That was clearly. He's like, come on, I could do this. It's like, it's
Yeah.
not why we're saying it, but just
And
calm
the guy
down.
on the right just goes, takes a
Yeah,
sip of
yeah.
his wine. I was like,
That
oh.
part was funny too. And then I mean, it's all Kristen Cole also just like his idea is like, oh, like if we don't have a dragon, we're less likely to encounter one.
Right.
Which
Bringing the dragon to the field encourages
yeah,
them to
which
bring
is
one on
pretty
as
true
well.
because like if the blacks saw that, they would kind of have to react with one.
Well, I mean, it ended up not being true, but 'cause
Well, yeah,
it was,
they already like they had one. I mean, who knows what if she was just scouting or what she was supposed to just be scouting. But I
yeah,
don't know. I'm still not sure if she actually would have done anything if she got there because she could have if she wanted to.
yeah. I thought that when she swoops in, I was like, she could have busted out of Jakars
Yeah,
like
that's a, yeah.
before
Yeah,
she got to
she
the
had
tree
plenty
line,
of time. So
and she also just could have burned the trees down
yeah,
and killed them in there.
she also never had to get that low. That was like that was more just like for her to be like, I
Yeah,
can't really see that well. I'm good. Like Moondancer makes it seem like Moon Dancer thinks it's you, but I gotta make sure.
yeah. I mean, it was great too. Someone pointed this out on Twitter, but she's flying and
Yeah,
Moondancer like screeches and looks down at them
yeah.
like, "Yo, bitch!
You
Like
seen this?
they're down there. Like go look,
Yeah,
look."
I thought that part was cool. Um, we get that, and then we get White Worm overlooking the bay, and Rhaenyra comes up, basically being like, "Oh, so like you came back?" And she's like, "Yeah," and like she's like, "Oh, you must expect a reward." But White Worm wants to be on her council, basically as a master of whisperers.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
said to pretty much be her Varys
yeah,
slash Littlefinger.
I think most of this is, and like she kind of mentions it, like this is because like she didn't think anyone else like it would be ruling would have let her go from like what she did like the last episode, so she just sees her as like a good ruler and like a rightful one, especially for the small folk that she had lived with for so long. So it's
Right.
more like she's like, I believe in you and want you as ruler over Aegon and the High
Yeah.
Tower, so I know are bad and like have like one that tried to kill her.
Yeah,
But I
pretty
thought
much
like,
like you'd be the more caring
yeah,
king slash queen. Like you'd look after the small
yeah,
folk more than
yeah.
Aegon will.
And I think like but the main part of this was like Sea Smoke the whole time is just crying, basically flying around and crying.
He has
And
grown restless.
yeah, and she just goes, she's like, she asks, are they always like that? To Rhaenyra says, oh, like no, she like, it's been lately. He must be
My late
yeah,
husband's.
late husband. And but like at this point, Rhaenyra still thinks Eleanor is alive. Like she knows
Right.
everyone else doesn't think that. But then when White Worm leaves, says, oh, maybe it's because he's lonely or whatever.
Hmm.
I think at this point, Rhaenyra's like possibly gets the idea like, oh wait, maybe Sea Smoke senses that Laenor has actually died and is
Right.
kind of
Like
thinking that
why all of a sudden
yeah,
is he starting to be restless
yeah.
more? Yeah.
Because I've heard like the bond between dragon riders and dragons are is like very close where they can kind of sense that sometimes. So I
Well, the
wonder if maybe that is kind of a factor in it. Like, oh, like Sea Smoke realizes he's dead, and then that's kind of Rhaenyra's like thought of like, oh wow, I did not think of this before, but that
A
makes sense.
dragon will refuse to be claimed
Yeah,
until their previous rider's dead.
yeah,
So like Sea Smoke will like could not have been claimed
yeah,
by anybody, and like if we do see him claimed, it
yeah,
will be proof that Laenor is dead.
yeah. But there's also like it's not proof that he hasn't been able to be claimed yet, because it's like not always like because like Vhagar wasn't claimed by like anyone for a while, because they just like some dragons just kind of refuse it anyone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's kind of Rhaenyra realizing, oh, Laenor is actually dead now, which I don't know if we ever really get a definitive kind of finding out of, or if it's just kind of under our assumption for the rest of the time.
Mm.
Then we get Rhaenyra and Rhaena.
Yeah.
If you want to
Yeah.
take that.
So she sits down with Rhaena and pretty much tells her like Rhaena is the younger sister of Baela and the daughter of Daemon and I'm blanking on his Velaryon wife,
Yeah, I
deceased
forget.
wife's name.
I kind of forget too.
Yeah, she was from the first season. They were all together. I think she was pregnant and was gonna have the kid, and then like it didn't work out. So she knew
Oh
she was gonna
yeah,
die from the pregnancy. So she was the rider of Vhagar and told
yeah,
Vhagar to burn her and pretty much Jakars herself. That was in the first season.
yep,
So she had two daughters with Daemon. It was Baela and Rhaena. Rhaena's the youngest, and she doesn't have a dragon. And Rhaenyra says to her like, "Hey, I've like based off of that last like assassination attempt, I'm clearly not safe here. A war between dragons is looming. Like, I don't want my toddlers in Dragonstone
yeah,
where I'm the number one
yeah,
target. I don't want to have them around me
yeah,
right now. And like as hard as that is for me to send them off, I need you to be the mother that I can't be
yeah,
and take Joffrey to her cousin in the Eyrie.
yeah.
Forget
Lady Aaron
Lady Aaron. So she's taking Joffrey. Rhaenyra's gonna take Joffrey there, and then take the.
with
I think their
Stormcloud
names
and
are Aegon and Viserys. Her
yeah.
kids with Daemon,
But they're gonna have
and she's gonna.
she's gonna take Stormcloud and Tyraxes, which are like the
Oh
small
yeah,
dragons right now. Like
yeah, I have
they're
that in
also
there.
going to be at the Eyrie, because
Yes, because they
those are the
promised the Eyrie
yeah,
dragons, right?
those are the dragons. Even though they're tiny, they're like, just make her
Mm-hmm.
accept this as being fine. Like we can't afford to give them an adult dragon. Just make her
Right.
accept this exchange.
So she's taking Joffrey and the two dragons there, and then she was asked by Rhaenyra to take the little ones even farther to Pentos,
Yep.
and she's taking Aegon and Viserys to Pentos with. I'm assuming she's taking the four dragon eggs with them.
Yeah.
So
Which did you
so
hear
she's
what
giving
we
her also four dragon eggs,
do you know what we know?
unhatched, obviously,
Do you know what we know
with
about those dragon eggs?
three of which look
Yeah.
awfully similar to the dragon eggs that is given to Daenerys Targaryen from Game of Thrones at her wedding day.
They were confirmed
There
by the
was
director to be those ones.
It was confirmed.
Yeah,
So
but
yeah, we had
that's where I kind of wonder, because I mean we see them later on, but like Daenerys gets three. So what happened to the fourth?
there
Is
was
there a
four
fourth?
dragon eggs
Is there a
in the
fourth
case.
one out there during Game of Thrones that we still haven't gotten?
There
And
could
maybe if
be,
there's like a spin-off of Game of Thrones, that's like a sequel that we get,
and it was
or is this one that maybe pops during this time, or we just never know?
yeah, it was a bright blue egg too. So there's the three dragon eggs that Daenerys receives is a green one, a yellow one, and a red one, which
Yep.
is for Drogon. I forget. I can't think of the other two. Viserion, I think, is one of them, and then
Rhaegar?
Ra- Rhaegar.
I feel
Rhaegar
like
might be. I think it was named after like Rhaegar, but you get those three colored eggs in the box, and then there's a bright blue one that we don't know anything about.
which a blue
I
dragon
don't
I think
know.
would look sick. That's
It could be a dragon
that's
that
not a
ends
White
up
Walker
hatching in
egg,
this
but
timeline, and Reyna gets. I don't like. We don't know, but I don't like. I said I don't know anything about this dragon egg. It clearly didn't make it all the
yeah.
way to when Daenerys's did.
I'd
So
much
it either
rather
hatched at this time
it be
period or
that
was
like
lost.
Lost, and then we get a sequel to Game of Thrones and it pops up then.
So you want
That's what I
George
would.
R. R. to write a whole nother series?
I mean, he doesn't have to write it. I
Yeah,
think he's already said like book canon is one thing, and then there's the
yeah,
show canon. So I mean, like the because even like this, I mean, this was written for like House of the Dragon, but like not necessarily all the dialogue. So a lot of that's been made up by the writers of this. So I mean, someone or like he could just have insight on the sequel. So
Well,
we
no,
were
these
supposed to have
these
it.
books are all out. Like the Fire and Blood book is out.
Yes, but it's all like secondhand accounts. We really don't have much. We don't really have as much dialogue. It's like oh like we think this happened or like we were told this happened.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like the inner like dialogue has not actually been written in the books.
Right. Okay. Um, After this conversation we get between Rhaenyra and Rhaena, it cuts to Damon riding Caraxes heading towards Harrenhal. If you
Yep.
want to take over here.
Yep. So it's clearly raining, which seems to always happen at Harrenhal. I guess it's a Riverland, so maybe that makes sense. But yeah, I mean he lands on the top of it, and we kind of see that like it's clearly in ruins since Baelor kind of melted a bunch of it. And I
Mm-hmm.
have no idea how he gets down from the big top that he does, but he does.
It's a tower. It's probably steps.
They were melt. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but they were. Yeah, I don't really care that much. It's just I thought it was
Yeah.
funny.
You don't
But
got to see every scene.
he's like walking around. Yeah, he's walking around, which like in probably some like the coolest armor we've seen so far in
Oh
at
yeah.
least this show. That was really cool. He has his sword out the whole time.
Wielding
Doesn't.
like an awesome Valyrian blade, Dark
Yeah,
Sister.
yeah. Um, but like only finds one person in his way, punches him in the face, and then finds that like they're in like the dining hall, opens the doors and just goes. He goes, like, oh, I'm here to claim Harrenhal for Rhaenyra Targaryen. And then let me get the guy's name. Uh,
Was it Simon?
yeah, Sir Simon Strong, Castellan of Harrenhal. Just sitting there and he just immediately gets up, goes to one knee and goes, I pledge like my allegiance or whatever for Rhaenyra Targaryen, the queen, and then asks him to just sit there and have supper with him. But one thing we've kind of been talking about and kind of wondering was when he kind of walks in, a woman with black hair walks in. She's the only one that does not kneel
Yeah,
during this
she like
scene.
walks in while they're all kneeling.
She's the only one that doesn't kneel. One of the guys appears to kind of notice her as she walks in,
Mm-hmm.
but we get her later in the episode. We're not sure if she is a ghost or not,
Right.
because I think they're all like there's like different names of some of the halls in Harrenhal where it's like Hall of the Ghosts or Hall of like the
Yeah,
Nightmares
Harrenhal
stuff.
is a like said to be very haunted
Yeah.
place.
So who knows what that is? I'm assuming we have to get some more knowledge later. But
Right.
yeah, they're
So
just
yeah, we get the guy glancing at her, but then, like I said, she shows up in like hallucination. I'd say.
yeah. It's well, it, I still don't know. I don't know if that was the part where he woke up and he was there or
Uh
not.
no, he wakes up in his room at the end, I believe.
No, he wakes up at the Godswood.
Oh,
Like
after seeing her.
no, like I think that's where like no, because we don't see him in his room after that.
I thought it glanced again
Mm-mm.
too.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. So the hallucination ends with the first scene.
Either that or we just don't see him actually wake up in his bed. I have no idea which
Okay.
one it is. But they're at supper and they're kind of talking and Damon kind of gets upset as Simon calls him Prince, and he goes, "Oh, like, oh, your Grace." He goes, "Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I just didn't know." Which I don't know if he just doesn't realize that he's married to Rhaenyra, or maybe just doesn't know what Damon wants to go by.
I don't know how in the dark these people are because he got confused by the word throne.
I don't know if he was just. I don't think he was confused. I think he just was like, "Are you like, oh, that's really like your plan? Like
Well, like
you're being that?" Yeah, I mean, I don't know because I don't
with
know
what's
how that.
going on, it
Yeah,
clearly is. Like that's what
yeah.
I'm saying. How in the
I
dark is this guy if he doesn't know there's a war going on?
I have no idea. But like he mentioned that like the Brackens and the
They're already
Blackwoods already
declared
yeah.
sides.
So he knew some
Yeah,
of it.
so that whole throne line confused me.
But he also he mentions that he has no like no um like he doesn't like Lord Laris. He basically knows
Yeah,
that Lord
Larry Strong
Laris
is no lord to me.
yeah, he
Or he
basically
says.
knows that Lord Laris killed his brother Harwin and his father and he's like there's no way a fire could have started by accident in here. We struggle to make fires on purpose.
Yeah,
There's no way one started by accident. He's like you can tell by all the dampness.
yeah, it's downpouring at all times.
Which one I forgot to mention it, but like while Damon was walking around initially we see like a big throne room with like burned like banners. I thought
Yeah,
that was
and
kind
like
of cool.
all the ceilings like caved
Yeah.
in, like it's a mess. This place.
So I guess that was like where like the initial like king of the Riverlands or whatever would have sat, and that
Mm-hmm.
was where Baelor kind of just destroyed everything. and they just
Yeah.
seems like they just have not cared to go and clean anything up because there's still the burned banners.
Still in a state of
Yeah,
disrepair.
I didn't get a chance to actually just pause it and kind of see what banners they were for. I'm assuming they're for the Strongs, but I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean Damon doesn't want to eat because he thinks it could have been poison. He's like, what easier way to kill a dragon rider than or a dragon than poison?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean then he says like he wants to meet the Least Lord Grover Tully, but Simon's like,
Mr.
oh
Poopy Pants.
yeah, Simon's like he's old, can't really speak that well, and he can't hold his bowels, so.
Yeah. Mr. Poopy Tully.
Yeah, he's like he's weak and like he can't even hold his bannerman, which Damon's like everyone should like follow the liege lord, like that's just like those are the rules. And
Right.
then Simon's like, oh, like what are you gonna do after like you get all? Because Damon also wants like Harrenhal to house 40,000 swords that are in the Riverlands, and like I guess fix up Harrenhal because clearly it would need some fixing.
Yes.
But then Simon's like, oh, what are you gonna do like after like you do that? And he goes, he's like, oh, we're gonna take the Iron Throne. He goes, and then as Ty mentioned, Simon just goes, the throne? Question mark.
Yeah.
And then Damon just goes, yeah, it's a big chair made of swords.
Yeah.
Like you know what we're talking about.
Like I said, I don't know. Like I said, he discusses the fact that the not he doesn't say them by name, but like the Brackens and the Blackwood, like a lot of them have already declared sides and have
Yeah,
already been at war. So he knows that there's two sides fighting for the
yeah.
throne. So like I don't understand whether the question would be like,
I wonder if maybe he's just surprised he's gonna do that so quickly. Like, oh, like that's your plan right away
oh,
after you
you
get
mean
all the
like
swords.
what happens after you unite Harrenhal?
Yeah,
Like we're gonna take the throne.
yeah.
He's like, oh,
I
that could
think
be it.
yeah, because that makes sense. Because he's like, oh, we're gonna march on Harrenhal. He's like, oh, that's how we're gonna do it. Like maybe he's
Hmm.
just kind of like, oh, like why don't you take your dragons? So
Yeah,
I think that kind of makes more sense.
you're just gonna take my men and then
Yeah,
send them all to war. Yeah, no, that could be a good one. That's a good explanation.
but I mean that would be like I mean that would be nuts to get 40,000 of those of the like of people, which I mean I guess is probably smaller now that the Brackens and Blackwoods have fought and probably lost thousands on each side. Um, what else was I gonna? Oh, but no, but then we also get the fact because I think Damon kind of asked like, oh, like why are the Brackens and Blackwoods always fighting? And he said like Simon's like, oh, it's basically Tales all the time. No one on either side nor anyone outside of the fight knows why they're fighting.
Yeah,
It's just
sin begets
yeah,
sin begets sin.
it's just like something happened and then someone else kind of responded and then response, and no one really
Hmm.
remembers where it started. Which is
Yeah,
kind of like what Rhaenys said before, like in the earlier scene at like the funeral was like oh Rhaenyra, because Rhaenyra was like, oh, like it started when they usurped my throne, and she's like, oh, or was it when Jaehaerys died, or was it when Aemon
Luke
killed
died.
Luke, or was it when Luke took Aemon's eye? Like you can point to one thing, but who really knows when this kind of got the ball rolling and
Yeah,
started
like
everything?
once the tides of war really start, the how it started really gets
Yeah,
forgotten.
as people just get like blood in their teeth,
Hmm.
and then
Um. So after this, we Allison's brother Sir Gawain is introduced to Kristen Cole. He kind of like,
don't like each other.
yeah, off the rip, not the best of friends. He immediately makes a jab or like kind of questions the fact that like my father who has served three kings faithfully, his term is ended and is replaced by someone who has no reason to be there,
Yeah,
pretty much
basically, oh,
like
like by a
someone with an
non-highborn, he's
upbringing
like,
of a as a Dornish nobody that
yeah,
was appointed knight and now is the hand of the king.
yeah. Which I mean,
He's like,
we've
oh, how
also
you
been
have
saying,
ascended.
yeah, we're like, oh, like he hasn't really done anything good, so like, why does he keep getting these promotions?
Yeah. So yeah, obviously don't like each other off the rip. Um Cole just being Cole and asking for Allison's blessing afterwards.
That was so weird because
Just being like he's just the worst,
clearly he
honestly.
knew what he was asking for, and I don't know if that was like because it was like a handkerchief that she pulled from like her breast. I don't know if that was like he. I mean, I guess he knows it.
He just wants to
He knows they're there.
while he's in battle.
Yeah, he knows they're there because they've had sex before, but like it's like is I don't know if it's like padding for her or what. But like he's like, oh, I want a blessing
I
from like your
mean,
heart, and like she's like, oh, come on, seriously, and then
it is like a traditional thing, but like he's the worst,
yeah, but like they're
honestly.
like one like in the public square or whatever, right there in front of everyone. Like her brother
Right in front of her
sees.
brother,
Yeah,
where like this whole relationship's supposed to be a secret.
yeah. Her brother sees, and he's definitely like, "Oh, what's that? I am not
Yeah.
a big fan of that." But then we basically just start riding out. But we
Oh
do.
wait, also forgot to mention that Kristen Cole comes out with a completely different hairdo. He cut the
Oh
flow.
yeah,
Flow is gone and is now has like looking like almost like an emperor's cut, like just a
yeah. Caesar cut.
basic Caesar cut. Yeah, real basic, boring haircut. I
Just like
guess it's
this, like
just
you
like
just go to the barber shop and point at number one. That's what he got.
yeah, no time to make my hair look good. We're going to war. Like
I mean,
let me
yes,
give me the most basic chop cut you can do.
I mean, there's no barbers in the woods where they camp out at, so
That's
you
true.
got to
All
get
the
it done now
barbers are at what are at
at
King's
the inns
Landing.
or at the inns where he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to go to the inns.
Oh yeah, you
None of his,
can't
none
have
of
the
his,
barber look at what they did to his hair.
yeah, none of the no barbers in his King's Guard, I guess.
Yeah, he'll get flamed. Um. So after that whole meeting, we do see them all ride out, and the rat catcher is
Yep.
still hanging,
She's getting
just
eaten by a
missing
crow.
a couple eyes and some skin, but he's still
That's
there,
gross. Yeah.
riding it out. Oh, I have this kind of is a absurd part of this episode that we got to see twice, but we saw it multiple times beforehand. We end up at Rhaenyra's council, and their solution, like to absolutely every problem that they face, is let loose the dragons. Like
Yeah.
this is the time to strike. And then every time, like literally every event that we've seen, I don't know who the hell these people are in her council, but every time we've seen them, whatever happened in the scene prior, they're like, "This is the best time to do it. Let's send the dragons." And she's like, "Dude, no, like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing it that way. Shut the hell up. Like, I'm not
like,
sending out dragons every time something happens."
I do find it kind of weird that we haven't gotten a name, at least that I
For any
know,
of them.
for any of them. I mean, and we
Yeah.
know most of the Greens Council. I mean, most of them are like the family members that we're close with. But like, we
Yeah,
know
we
like the
got a guy from the
Lannister,
Citadel.
like
Both sides have somebody from the Citadel.
yeah.
It seems.
Oh, yeah, because I just have like the local maester or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, now really the only one on our council that we'll know of is, I mean, Daemon, Rhaenys, and White Worm. But like, we have no idea the names of the rest of them. But yeah, they're keeping like, oh, we have one advantage, dragons, go.
Yeah.
And like as we said, like the women Rhaenyra and Rhaenys just continue to not want to actually like fight. Or I guess at
And
least
they
not
just
fight with
look like
dragons.
they're in a group of idiots. Like they are the only two
Yeah.
that have a logical head that aren't just jumping to like
Yeah.
the easiest conclusion. Like who like these two have ridden dragons for close to 20 years now. Why do you think if the move was to send the dragons, that's not something
Yeah.
they've thought? Like you don't know shit about
Yeah.
dragons.
What?
Stop
Yeah.
telling me what to do with the dragons.
Well, it's like I said, I think it's partially because they're like, oh, well, like if we send dragons, we can't ride dragons, so we don't have to do shit.
That's
But
true.
you two, like
you guys handle the war. Like we'll
Yeah.
stay here.
and it's the two people that don't want to do that are Rhaenyra and Rhaenys, who are the main
ones
dragon
that will
riders
be
for.
riding the
Yeah, so like
dragons.
it's like the fight between like, all right, who's gonna battle this out? Is it gonna be men or is it gonna be dragon riders?
Yeah. And when Rhaenyra says no, their next plan is, why don't you secrete yourself somewhere and let us handle everything that's
Yeah.
going to happen around here? And she goes, you want to manage this war while I go and hide? Like, that's treason, brother. Like, you're
Yeah.
not going to just take the mantle off me like that. She's like, you're lucky you stopped where you were because you're
Yeah.
about to say some treacherous shit.
Yeah, 'cause it's like, oh, what are you gonna win the war and then when I come back you're gonna have the crown on your head? Like, no, that's not. I'm not doing
Welcome
that.
back. Here's the crown.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
but then like
that's just the dumbest. Like, who are these fucking people? Honestly, like, no good ideas at all. Send the dragons. No. Why don't you go hide somewhere and let us make decisions?
Yeah.
Like, these guys are absurd.
but then like Rhaenyra walks out after she said that and she's all upset. Rhaenys, before walking out, mentions like, oh, like she wears the crown of like the King Conciliator,
Jaehaerys the Conciliator.
which was like her father, I believe, who
Yes.
she mentions had the longest rule ever, even longer than like Aegon the Conqueror, and basically like he was in a time of peace because he didn't make rash decisions. He didn't just go out there and like fight everyone with dragons. And like
Yeah.
she's trying to do something similar, which is kind of one of the reasons why we think she likes Rhaenyra as the leader and like kind of picked her side. But then we get Rhaenys and Corlys down in Driftmark. Corlys' ship is still getting repaired. They're kind of like under like I guess like a little bit of a dock. They're keeping out of the rain and they have a little picnic. And one thing I noticed with this was like she's clearly standing on a box, and like the whole time they're talking, she's above him. I think it's
Hmm.
kind of like saying like, oh, she's above him in the relationship, and kind of like Corliss is like the only dude in the show that is fine looking at women as like his leader or like um superior.
Yeah, what he said something last episode. It's like I've had no problems being
Yeah,
bossed around by a
yeah,
Targaryen.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. So like, he's the only one that seems to be fine with like that, at least in terms of like the relationships, because like we've seen Damon kind of struggle with it. Uh,
yeah, Corlys is arguably one of like the best dudes. Like,
oh yeah,
the most genuine like bulls on the whole entire show.
I mean he
Honestly,
like
like,
he knew like for sure that like Luke was not like did not share the same blood as him, and like was not his son's son. But
but defended it
even
till
still,
the
like,
end.
yeah, like, and was like still like, yeah, I'm gonna name you heir of Driftmark. Like he's like, I just want my name to keep going. Like he didn't care
Yeah,
that he wasn't actually blood related. He's like, I'm gonna make this kid my heir and like teach him and stuff like that. And he kind of did seem like hurt by his death.
like I said, he had a dagger made for him,
Yeah,
or a little
exactly.
sword
Yeah,
made for him. Like, he was a sweet dude. Like, I love Corlys a lot.
yeah. But like I think it's kind of it's weird that like because Rhaenys brings up he's like, oh, like Joffrey's like, or like he maybe one of them brings up the fact that Joffrey's a new heir, and Corlys is like, kid doesn't even know anything about a boat. Never
Yeah,
been
a
on a
boy
boat.
of 6, he knows
Yeah.
nothing of the waters.
So, but like even like when Luke was like told that he was the heir, like he didn't really know much. So I don't know how much.
No.
Maybe he just figured he had more time to like train him,
Well,
whatever.
yeah, I think that had to do with the fact that they're getting sent away.
Yeah.
So like like he had Luke
Oh
to
well, yeah,
train, and there
that's
wasn't a
true.
war going
I
on.
wasn't thinking
Whereas
about that to be honest.
like yeah, they're naming Joffrey's the heir, and they're gonna send him
Yeah.
far away
Yeah.
to just come back
Yeah.
after like God forbid Corlys dies and
Yeah.
know nothing about ruling Valyria.
Yeah. That makes sense. But Rhaenys mentions the idea like, why don't you name Bela or I think is it. It has to be like Rhaena probably that she really goes pushes for because Bela would
Yeah, no,
technically be the queen.
she says Rhaenyra would have no ill will about
Yeah.
making Rhaena the heir to was it Valeria or
Driftmark.
was it, yeah Driftmark.
Which I
She
don't think
said
she
like yeah
would. Like I
Rhaenyra
don't
would
think she
not have a
would.
problem with making it Rhaena, and he was like Rhaena knows nothing either. She's like it's
Yeah.
Rhaena or Joffrey, bro. Like you can we can I don't know who you want.
And he's basically just like he's like, oh, well, like we'll figure this out later. Like I'm gonna go back on my ship.
Yeah,
We'll come back. We'll win. Then we'll figure it out. And she's like,
yeah.
we don't know if you're gonna survive. You almost died last time.
He goes, thankfully we have time at the beginning of an absolute
Yeah.
war of dragons. There's nothing you do not have time by any means.
And like at one point, like it's
It's
like
planning for the
like,
future after the war of dragons.
I think he said something basic like, oh, like let's see what comes or whatever. And like he like grabs her by like the hips. And like I've seen some people like mention that like, oh, like this is him like saying like, oh, like let's have another kid. I was like, they both know well they're not having kids anymore. They're
Oh
both
yeah,
like mid 60s.
yeah, they're
Like
definitely
kids are
yeah.
not in the question. I think he's just saying they have time and like they can wait it out. Cause like
I was gonna say, if I remember correctly, wasn't she older than Viserys?
yeah, pretty sure yeah.
She
So
was
like
the firstborn. Like
yeah, kids are out of
Viserys
the
was
question.
not having any more.
No.
I mean, Viserys did have kids actually at his old age.
Yeah, but it's a little
But
easier
that
for
was
men than women at the
yeah.
same time.
Oh, very great point, Ryan. Women have it hard. Absolutely.
As we see from the women or the birthing bed is a women's battlefield,
Oh yeah.
as we saw 14 times last season.
If you're a fan of this show, you know all too well that there are problems at birth often at this time period.
But yeah, Cool is basically like, oh, I'm strong now. Like I'm fine. I'm gonna survive this time. I'm good
What
on
do
a
you say? I'm
boat.
no longer invalid or
Yeah, yeah. I'm
invalid.
no longer an invalid. Yeah. But then he basically just walks off, and Rhaenys is like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, my man is way too optimistic about after this.
Um, yeah. But then we
Yeah.
get to the scene that we kind of mentioned about earlier, where Rhaena is finally now being sent off. I think this is like when she finally realized that like she's being sent off with the dragon eggs too. And I think because like she is like pouting the whole time about like being sent off and like talking to Bela about it, and like Bela's like, you need to see this as like a big like important thing what you're doing. Like
Yeah,
and then he turns around as they lift up like the opening of like the dragon egg kind of like box, and like she's like, oh, you're giving me these as well.
yeah,
Okay, now I see how serious it is. And I think a lot of them in that scene kind of realize that like Rhaenyra and everyone is almost like there's a good chance none of us are surviving this.
yeah. Well, like I said,
And Bela sees how like important now her duty is to take these. Like she's like she might be the final like Targaryen Valerian like alive at the end of this.
right. I mean, like I said, these dragons are gonna be fighting other dragons. There's a good chance like very few are going to be remaining
Yeah,
after this. Like dragons are not going to be easy to come by. Like even if the ones remaining, what if they're not all? What if none of them are female? Like
yeah,
this could have been the end of dragons. We're sending you these two little ones and four eggs. Like if shit hits the fan here, like you kind of are the future
yeah,
of like dragon riders.
yeah. Which I mean,
And they,
kind
I
of as
agree.
we
Like she
know,
kind of sees that and is
yeah,
like, oh, like your grace. Like she like
yeah.
gets it a little more.
I mean, we kind of know that's pretty much true because the dragons end up dying out at some point, and as we were talking about, these are the three of the four are the dragons that Daenerys has, and I mean, dragons aren't seen for 100 years. But yeah, they hug goodbye, they leave, and then we get Allison and Helena, which I gotta. If you want to take this one, I got a theory at the end of the one. Uh,
Yeah. So my main note I have is just the fact that
the forgiving.
Helena says she forgives Allison, and like really, like the whole conversation was she comes. The first thing I think Helena says is like, "I feel sad over Jaehaerys still,"
And she's
and
like,
she's
I
like,
know,
"Oh, like
I need not to be or whatever. And Allison's like, nope,
yeah," she's like
that's
the
normal.
sadness.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's like she pretty much says like sadness benefits nothing. Like there's nothing to gain from being sad, and then like Allison relates it to like the struggles of motherhood, like or the pains of motherhood, and then I think Helena says something like "and you" or like something. Allison says something about grieving, and Helena goes "and you," and she's like, "I love Jaehaerys very much so, but I'm
Mm,
more concerned about like how you're
yeah,
handling it." And then I think that was like soon after that she says like, "I forgive you,"
yeah.
and Allison's like, "What? What do you mean?" She's like, "I said I forgive you," and then like I think Allison's just like shook when she
Yeah,
says that. Like really doesn't
because
know what to say.
I mean, is she forgiving her for what already happened and maybe being with um Kristen Cole during the time that Jaehaerys was killed, or is
Mm.
she forgiving her for something
For,
she's seen happen in the future?
yeah, I mean, I I took it as just plain simple like listen, my kid got killed and you're shagging it with the King's Guard when he could have been on duty. So like you're absolutely right. Like it could very well be like she didn't elaborate on it at all, which she does when it's a vision for the most part.
Yeah,
Like
she
she's
just
talks
she
in riddles and like doesn't elaborate anymore. She said, "I forgive you." Allison goes, "What?" And instead of being like, "I forgive you for banging the head of the
yeah.
King's Guard when my baby was getting decapitated," she was like, "I said I forgive you." So like, it was very a vague statement,
I'm hoping it's
but
for that because it'd be cool, and it'd be
but I was
cool
gonna
to
say,
see
but at
what.
the same time, she lost the baby. The baby was the topic of conversation, and part of the reason the baby died was the King's
Yeah,
Guard was not on duty
and I mean
because of the mom.
she might be forgiving her for the fact that she wasn't being a good mother to her for the past little bit, and like during her grieving process, and be like, this is like the first time I've seen you in like 3 days, and my
Yeah,
child got killed last week.
and like yeah, last time we
I
talked, you
forgive you
told
for
me I
being
had
a
to
bad
parade
mom. Yeah.
myself.
So I mean, it could be for that too. I think it'd be cool if it's like, oh, like we find out something happens in the future. But
Next episode, she does something even worse to
yeah,
Helena. I said I
uh,
forgive you.
yeah. Let me get Aegon in Aegon the Conqueror's armor, which
Yeah,
I didn't like. I wouldn't have thought he would have fit in it. I imagined like Aegon the Conqueror being like a much taller,
like a unit.
more of like a Daemon build, and
Yeah,
Aegon's like 5 foot
shorter.
6 and like
Hmm.
skinny. I was like, I don't know how that's fitting him. Maybe they modified it with a breastplate
They had a
thinner.
tailor come in,
Yeah, I don't know. But
got
then
it fitted.
I guess Lord Larys comes to talk to him and wants a private chat, and like and Aegon's like, oh yeah, I'm strapping up to go fly with Kristen Cole, and Lord Larys is like, oh like I hear like some whispers that like, oh like what a noble thing, but I also hear some whispers that like Alicent and whatever have persuaded the king to do this so that they can rule in his stead while he's gone because they want him
Hmm.
gone, and then this clearly scares him because like we said earlier, he's very
Insecure.
yeah, insecure, and like sees it as like, oh like, oh well, they don't want me to rule, like, oh then I have to stay, like I can't let them rule before me,
Yeah,
so changes
he's like,
his
who said
mind.
these vile rumors?
Yeah, and he's like, oh they're just whispers, no one, like, it doesn't matter how they start, they just like they spread like flies or something like that.
Like weeds.
Yeah. And then, so like Lord Larys leaves, he goes, and Aegon mentions, he's like, my father never felt a need for a master of whispers, but I find myself wanting one. Basically,
Hmm.
just giving him the position of master of whispers. like Varys and Littlefinger in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
A- After he
we
leaves his
pretty much this episode solidified a Littlefinger slash Varys for each side, pretty
yeah,
much. Like,
which I like because those
me
are some
too.
of the best characters.
Yeah, they're definitely enjoyable characters,
And
but
then
not the best for an insecure king.
no, no, not at all. They're quite literally the worst.
Yeah, you just gotta tell him when all the people hate him why they hate him, and
Especially if
that might not do him too good.
especially if they're more like Littlefinger than Varys. Because I feel like Varys was more just like straight up and truthful.
Yeah,
But
where Littlefinger kind of like had his alternative motives, and
yeah.
I hear you.
But then his Kingsguard basically is like, oh, like you ready to go? And he's like, oh, on second thought, I'm gonna stay here. I'll fly another
Yeah,
day. And they're like, yeah,
I think
it's
he
a
said
good
again. I
idea,
may
good
have to
idea,
fly
good
another
idea.
day.
Like, yeah, that seems good. That seems good. It's like you're
After
just like
further
the.
thought, that is the good idea. It's fucking idiot friends. I love it though.
But then they're like, oh, like now that you're staying, like you can go to the bar with us with like this squire that's never like had sex. Like you want to go do that? And Aegon's like, you guys are sworn to chastity now, and they're like laughing, like, oh yeah, yeah, right, your grace. And he's just keeps staring. He's like, basically just like, oh, I'm not lying, like I'm not joking. And they're
So
like,
he
yes, your grace.
does, and then as soon as they get serious, he does smile, which
Yeah,
like
well, I think he just folds. I think he's like,
yeah. Well,
ah,
I mean,
because
he
I think
clearly
I think he wants to go do that as well. I think
yeah,
that's
he
more of it.
definitely wants to, and he like I think he was like mostly like he was stating the fact like I thought you guys made like a vow of chastity, and they were joking about it, and he like I think for a second felt disrespected, but then it was like, what am I gonna go drinking and hit like the titty club by myself? Like
Yeah,
I guess I do want these boys with me.
I think it was more that like he just didn't want to go alone, and he did want to go.
Yeah. But speaking of the bar, we then jump to the bar where this character named Ulf is walking through, and he just seems to be the most popping guy at the bar. Just knows everybody. He's dabbing everybody up, like finishing stories. Literally knows everybody. Everyone's excited to see him. This guy calls him over, asks for a story. He was like a wet whistle does wonders. They order him a drink, which when he said a wet whistle does wonders, I don't know about you. I immediately thought some girl's about to start knobbing him off. Like I
Hmm.
thought they're gonna bring a girl over and just hop under the table, but no. He just gets a glass of beer or wine, and then he's introduced to the Dornish man sitting across from him, and he mentions that Dorne is a place that I believe his grandsire or his family never really traveled to, but has heard that they mourn the death of his grandsire deeply. And the guy goes, or he's like, "Is that true?" And the guy goes, "Well, who's your grandsire?" And he says, "Jaehaerys the Conciliator." Is that the word conciliator?
Conciliator. I think so.
Conciliator.
It's kind of hard to pronounce.
He was his grandsire was Jaehaerys the Conciliator. He is the I believe is he the bastard son of the bastard son?
No,
What's
so
his
he's
name?
he's the son
Baylor the
of
Brave.
he's the son of the bastard son of Balon the Brave. So I think he's technically Viserys' and Daemon's brother, like bastard
He
brother.
says half brothers though.
Oh yeah, or half brothers, whatever. Because
Well,
like I
if he's the bastard son, that would still make him a half brother. Then okay.
because I think from what I've heard, apparently like one of the old traditions was like when on your wedding night, all of your like your siblings or whatever have a chance to have like sex with your wife before you do, which is very weird. And
Mm-hmm.
apparently like the kids that come off of that like are from that are called dragon seeds, which I'm pretty sure he calls himself a dragon seed. And he's like, oh, dragon seed needs to watch his neck when kings white cloaks aren't around.
Oh,
So apparently like those kids are considered dragon seeds, and at like
so
previous times were seen as much higher regard than I guess what they are now with him.
so on his dad and mom's wedding night, she got plowed by a bunch of dudes, a bunch of siblings,
Yeah.
and how did they know that he wasn't the kid of the dad?
I guess they just don't know, so they just end up calling him dragon seeds. Or like you
Yeah,
could
but
be like you,
why wouldn't he just be the son?
because he's not. I guess technically like their actual. I don't know. I didn't really
But
see that much into it. That's just more what I've been.
that's what I'm saying. Like, how did anyone like if
I
if he
mean,
says he's a bastard son, I'd have to assume it was with another woman because like they didn't have DNA tests back then. If your mom gave birth to a kid that like
well,
resembled your dad
I
enough,
mean,
especially like a Targaryen, like how did they prove that it wasn't his son?
maybe it was like his father was the one that did it on someone else's wife, and they know for sure it was him because
Oh,
maybe he was like the only one that did
yeah.
that part of the ritual, so they know it was for sure him. So he knows he's for sure
Okay,
that guy's son.
that
So
would make
like
sense. But he was a dragon seed of Balon and another man's wife.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, I like that. Yeah. So he's the bastard son of Baelor the Brave, uncle to the one true queen Rhaenyra, which bold statement to make while in King's Landing.
yeah. Well, I mean, it gets even worse when he keeps
And
going.
yeah, he says something about they said oh like you look just like a Targaryen. Look at his hair when his hair is clearly not Targaryen color.
Yeah,
And he goes, well, not all Targaryens wear the same hair. Look at the rightful heir to the throne, my nephew Jacaerys Velaryon. And then he says like the true heir to the throne,
yeah.
Jacaerys Velaryon. And then the bar goes dead silent because Aegon walks into the bar. And then he, I guess, in a moment realized that like shit. I hope nobody's gonna react to what I just said. Like, all hail the king, and everyone cheers to the king, who is Aegon, who came in.
Yeah. Like that part was really cool because he like got very scared and he was the first one to be like, oh, all cheers to the king. So like he's like, I'm just trying to save my ass.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, all cheers to the king. Oh, I have something in here too. Another queen. Oh, Aegon comes in, drinks for all at the pleasure of the crown. Buys pretty much the whole bar drinks. I guess for the whole night. I don't know if that was like for one round. They got crazy excited for it to just be one round. So I guess he might be just covering the tab of the bar for the entire night. Dope move. Would
I mean,
love a king to do
I'd
that.
imagine it's just one round, but
I know, but the one dude was like, drinks on the ground, like drinks on the like was losing his mind.
yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's probably also like a very rare thing for them to have happen.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, I get it. You're right. So after that, Aegon sits down with the squire boy who has never either has he never had a drink either, and he's a virgin.
I think he said that he's never wet his whistle. I don't know if they actually said like.
But wet his whistle. I don't think. I think
Oh
they're
yeah,
alluding to
no,
his drinking.
that was what Ulf said. I think they just mentioned he's never been with a woman.
Okay, so they sit this young squire down. Aegon's pretty much throwing wine at him, saying like, "Here, this night's about you. This night's about you." And then he's like throwing little peanuts at him and cracking up laughing. And then we jump to, I guess, the back part of this pub, which is
Yeah,
just
the
a
actual like pleasure
absolute
den.
the pleasure den, whorehouse, however you want to call it. He's walking through looking for a room for his little squire, ripping nets. I guess curtains
Yeah, yeah, there you go.
covering rooms, opening every single one. You got one whore blowing another guy, which most obvious prosthetic dick
Yeah,
I've ever
yeah,
seen in my
yeah,
life. Like that one was pretty
yeah.
crazy.
Which is very
Next
funny because
one we
like the
see,
things that they've shown in this show and Game of Thrones before, I was like, you didn't even need to do that. But
no, especially because they also show a real like a much more realistic pair of dick and balls from on Aemon like 10 minutes later, like literally 3 minutes later.
yeah,
But next room is just like a absolute orgy going on, and then he rips like a third curtain down, and he finds Aemond with his
constant whore.
mommy fetish woman,
Yeah,
who ends up is being revealed as his first ever, and he's never tried to taste another one since. So he had this woman his first time and has never gone back to
yeah.
another woman.
So
So
I'm
he's
pretty sure
been
we saw like in the first season like Aegon took him down there for his first
yeah
time.
when he was yeah Aegon did take him down there when he was a kid. Um, Aegon just like I said, curtains drawn. He's curled up with the woman, and he starts laughing at him, telling everybody how like
Just bullying him.
Aemon's only been with this girl. Like he's still like never wants to try another one. Pretty much just everything I just said. Says like, "Did you fuck her like a dog?" Whoa, 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 whoa. Which is great. Like he's just being a drunk idiot, but it was funny. And then he says something on the lines of like, "Sorry, like clearly she's unavailable. Or she's I say unavailable. I don't think that's the word he used.
Yeah,
But then Aemon stands up like she's all like you can hand her to your squire like a
yeah,
whore's a whore, like
yeah,
pretty much trying to like deflect that this girl has any meaning to him.
yeah. And like he just stands at the top of the bed and like he's above them, looking down at him as he walks away nakedly, being like,
Yeah.
oh, like I'm confident, like I can walk
Yeah.
away, like I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah. A bit of a reminder because like almost like to this point in this season, Aegon's been like almost like a full 180 turn of being like a seems like a nicer guy, like someone who's
Hmm.
really trying. And you kind of reminded in this scene, like, he was a complete prick growing up, like
Yeah,
a real asshole,
he was the
bullied
main
the hell out of
bully.
Aemon,
So I know
and
we get like Aemon going at like Luke and like Jacaerys like and like all that, but like it was mainly Aegon that was bullying him the whole time.
oh yeah, and yeah, Aegon bullied Aemon a lot.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because Aemon did that when he ended up before he lost his eye. But
Yeah,
it's like we the real bully was Aegon the whole time.
yeah, he was bad. But like I said, it was kind of like I was laughing, but it was a reminder, like, oh, Aegon can be like a real piece of shit.
Yeah. Uh, I mean that's yeah. It ends there, and we get Rhaenyra's like putting away her son's toys, who the sons have now left.
1 second.
All right, wait for him to get back.
All right, go ahead. Ah. Sorry, Holly just got home and Birdie was freaking out. Good.
Um, but
Rhaenyra with Alicent's letter, right?
no, well, yeah, she's putting away the toys, and like the toy box has Alicent's letter that she sent her a while ago. She finally opens it, starts to read it, but we don't get to see like any of it what it says. Because as soon as she
No.
opens it, it switches to Kristen Cole riding out in the middle of a field to go stop Gwaine from going to an inn instead of camping like with his men in the trees. But Gwaine's like, oh, I don't want to sleep in the cold, hard ground. But as they're kind of like debating this, we Kristen Cole like looks up and clearly hears Moondancer like
It's like, we're
flying.
exposed.
Yeah. Then they ride for the trees to try and get cover. As we mentioned, Moondancer kind of like, hey, look down there. It's over there. Fly down, swoop down, get way too close, or at least way too low. Like you could have stayed like 20 feet up and still hit
Mm.
Dracarys if you wanted to. Then they get in the trees, and Baylor has a quick pull up to get out of the way, lose him in the trees, and it's just like it's kind of like you're getting kind of like some like oh I can see like you're Damon's kid, like you're clearly a little hot headed, like you like thought it'd probably be fun to go chase him
Yeah, you're
when like
just
you're
supposed to scout. You're not
yeah
supposed to engage. And she really wanted to jump the gun on that one.
yeah but then we get kind of what we mentioned earlier. Damon gets a visitor, someone knocking at his door.
Well, hold on. Before that, doesn't Baylor returns with the news
Oh yeah, yeah,
of
yeah, I
like
forgot about
Kristen
that.
Cole?
Yeah,
Like
you want to go?
Baylor goes back to Rhaenyra and all the council and says that she found Cole was with like 6 or so more bannermen, like probably a scout team for much more to come, much more a whole unit. And I think the Maester confirms it, says that there's like confirmed like seeing riders, like a whole unit of them, and once again, the council goes, "This is the time to release the dragons." And like, we got Cole by himself. Now we should take like they're clearly moving somewhere near us. Send the dragons. And she's like, dude. And like, they push a lot harder on this one, but still, she's like, stop. Like,
Yeah,
I hear all your guys' opinions. I'm gonna go think about it, but not really. Like, you guys just gotta stop telling me to do this shit.
yeah, very upset. Um,
Yeah. Then we get Damon
yeah, then
back
we
in
like
Harrenhal.
someone just like pounding on his door basically, but he has a like bolted shut or whatever you want to call it with
There's
like
two
two swords.
swords
Yeah,
swapping the
we have to
handles.
handle. Yeah, so no one can get in. He grabs Dark Sister and starts to go towards the door, pulls the swords out, and he can't. There's no one on the other side. He walks down. He like hears humming. Walks in that room, and it's a girl sitting by a fire. Looks over. It turns to be young Rhaenyra,
Mm-hmm.
stitching or sewing Jaehaerys' head back on. And then we get
That's right.
the quote that he hears is always coming and going. You are you, and I have to clean up afterwards.
Yeah.
And then he like looks terrified and like almost about to cry, closes his eyes, and then opens them, and he drops his sword, and he's right in front of a godwood at Harrenhal. And the woman we were talking about earlier walks up and just says, "You will die in this place." And it just keeps getting echoed, and like you hear like birds, and so I don't really know fully what to make of this. Is this still part of his hallucination? Is it not? 'Cause I don't, like I said, I don't think we see him in his like room after that. I think it just kind of switches scenes there.
Mm.
But yeah, that was because like, it might like I don't think he may die here later during a battle, but I don't think he's gonna die here like this visit.
Not on this trip
Yeah,
right now. No, I would agree with that. I think it might allude to like whether he like you said in battle, like there is a battle above Harrenhal
Mm,
where like that happens, or like I don't think this is a like soon. Like
yeah,
you're like you said, you're not making it out of this castle. I think it's gonna be something we're gonna see probably in like a season or two, and
yeah,
it's gonna be like, oh, that woman was right, or like he's gonna like go like that he's like gonna hear someone's coming, go to attack them, and like, wait, I'm gonna attack them right above Harrenhal. Didn't I? Wasn't I supposed to die here? Like we might get a flashback of that encounter, but I don't know if this is gonna do anything for us in the near future.
yeah. Um, then we go back to Dragonstone, where Rhaenyra goes to talk to the White Worm.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just like she's like, "Hey, do you know anything about Alicent's movements?" And then she's like, "Oh, like, well, what for?" So I want to speak to her face to face. She's like, "It'd be easier to kill her than do that.
Yeah.
Like, I sneaking you in and sneaking her somewhere where there's no Kingsguard is going to be almost impossible." But
Right.
then she ends up, I guess she clearly gets the idea, like, oh, like she always goes to the Grand Sept and like does that alone. This is our only chance. I'll get you there on like a fishing boat, which he does. So Rhaenyra shows up in like a septa like I guess uniform, basically covers all of her hair and everything but her face. She like sneaks in there with like some random guy who
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like it's
Synthesis.
kind of almost like her knight that is not dressed up. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
because he has a blade
Um.
on him.
Real quick, like, shouts out to the White Worm pulling this off so efficiently. Like, already doing her duty as a council member. Like,
What's
she
up? Like,
just snuck the queen into enemy lines without a hitch.
well, we've seen the king and the queen do that. Like King's
I
Landing
mean,
is
Damon,
yeah, but that's, yeah, technically king.
but Damon did it with her help too.
That's what I mean. But like King's Landing
Yeah.
has no protection. Like, there's no one checking these boats.
Well, again, I think this is what the value of having somebody that just has people everywhere is.
Yeah, I yeah that too.
Like you had somebody that is has in and out of the castle, put some camouflage on them
Yeah,
or like a disguise on them, and like as long as you got people,
yeah,
like you can get there. Like it's I'm just saying this is twice now that she snuck someone. Like I said, these are Targaryens. They're not exactly easy to hide. They have very distinct hair,
yeah.
and she's the number one enemy of this whole entire city. Like they snuck her to literally be side by side with the queen. Like
Yeah.
that's insane. Go ahead,
Uh,
continue though. Sorry, I just wanted to
yeah,
shout
you're
out White
fine.
Worm there.
And then basically, like, so once she gets there, Allison like just out. She sees Allison walk up first, but her Kingsguard stay outside. Allison goes to like the I don't know what that thing is called, but she goes to light candles by herself, and she seems pretty upset that someone has the audacity to sit next to her.
Yeah,
And then like Rhaenyra brings out a knife, and like Allison like freaks out, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, what's your plan?" She's like, "Oh well, like yeah, like they'd find me, but like I'd kill you first, even if your Kingsguard get here." And she's like, "Oh,
yeah,
I started this off badly. This is not what I meant."
yeah. Rhaenyra's like, "Well, I'd kill you, and eventually your people would come and find me." And she's like, "And then what? Like, if I die, my king's
Yeah,
still alive. Like, you dying is way bigger of
yeah.
a deal than me dying."
She's
And
like,
she's like, "Yeah, I've started this badly. Hold on." And like restarts. That was great.
but then we just get the whole like thing like Rhaenyra's like I've been counseled by Rhaenys. She's counseling me like we know that you don't want war, you don't want bloodshed, all this stuff. Like how can we get this to end peacefully? And basically like Alicent's like, oh, so you're gonna bend the knee? You're gonna like say my son's king? And Rhaenyra's like, no, that's not what I meant.
No,
Clearly,
no,
that's
no,
not
no,
what I
no.
meant.
Don't
But
get it twisted.
then they just kind of get in like the whole like back and forth of like no, like I know my father didn't change his mind. I was his choice up until a few hours before I left. There's
Yeah.
no way he changed his mind. And then Allison keeps like, no, like he said Aegon's name, and then I think
She's like, "You
like
lie."
it's almost like Rhaenyra like just like is like, all right, like what did he say? Like just
Well, she starts to get like shaken up a little bit. Like she like I think Allison swears on her mother's life or swears and then
yeah,
like Allison like or Rhaenyra starts to get a little concerned. Like, did he actually do this?
yeah,
Like, did he say my name? And she's like, and like I think like Rhaenyra starts crying
yeah,
because she's like,
yeah, because he didn't
fuck,
say her
like
name.
am I in the wrong here? Like, am I disobeying my dad's orders? And then we get the great ending
Yeah,
of
yeah,
which is
because I think like she goes like, what did he say? And she like and Allison's like, oh, like he said Aegon is like the prince that is promised to unite the realm, and like Rhaenyra at that point like jumps up. She's like,
said
wait, that's what he said? he said the
Yeah.
prince was promised, and Allison's
Did
like,
my father
yeah.
say those words?
And then she goes like, oh, he told you about this song of Ice and Fire, and Allison's like,
What's that?
no, no idea. And I think at that point Rhaenyra's like, he didn't know it was you. He thought it
Yeah.
was me he was talking to, and he's like, it was a story he told about Aegon the Conqueror, and then Allison in that moment realizes she's been wrong this whole time,
Yeah. Allison
and
goes, the Conqueror?
well, she stutters too. She's like the Conqueror,
Yeah.
and like in that
Which,
moment they're both just
oh,
sitting there like, we're fucked. It's too far gone. Like
yeah,
we're
like
not
this
even really
all could have been averted.
we're not really even the ones in charge anymore. Like the last two things that happened were not our doing. Like Damon was the one that killed Jaehaerys, and like Kristen Cole was the one that sent Arik. Like we're not in control of this anymore. It's too far gone. And then Allison's just
Yeah.
like, just leave. And then Rhaenyra's like, no, but like you made a mistake. Allison just keeps saying, there's no mistake, no
Right.
mistake.
Which I kind of like, as much as like there clearly was a mistake made. Like Allison's right. Like, what the hell could I
Yeah,
possibly do now? Like,
I
Otto's not here
yeah,
anymore. It's just me. Aemon is Aemon, or Aemon is Aemon. Like, you know who he is.
yeah,
Like you think Aegon's gonna like, listen and be like, hey, turns out your dad didn't want you. He was just thought I was his daughter, and he was telling me a story about Aegon the Conqueror. Like, let's cut this all out. Take your crown off. You can go back to like drinking and whoring around, and we're gonna let Rhaenyra. Like, it's too far gone.
yeah,
But shouts out to the first episode of the season that didn't end with Kristen Cole and Allison doing the nasty.
yeah. Finally. Well, and now he's gonna be gone for a while, so we might be fine
We
not to
might be
have that
done
for a
with
little
that.
while.
We're finally done with this awful relationship between Allison and Kristen Cole, at least
Yeah,
for a few episodes, hopefully.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
that ends episode 3. Like we said, we didn't get as much action. Like the last 2 episodes both ended with a pretty dramatic scene where it was the Sir Eric and Sir Eric fight or the decapitation of young Jaehaerys. But again, we said this about like a few of the episodes. Like they have a Game of Thrones feel. Like they really are like planting the seeds of like all these little conversations that are like building so much more character that they which is what upset us about the end of the last two seasons of Game of Thrones. Like we're getting, you can see the insecurities of Aegon. You can see the people trying to help him with his insecurities and the ones that are feeding
yeah,
on it. Like it's you just they're doing I think a great job of building characters right now.
yeah. No, I agree. And like I said, I think like the next episode's gonna be a big battle. So we're gonna finally
Yeah.
get a big battle, which is gonna be really cool. Been waiting 1.5 seasons for almost. So very excited for next week.
Yeah, and we will be actually. I'm gonna be away all week next week, so I don't know if you. I could maybe do this on the phone. It'd be a shorter version. I
Yeah,
don't know.
we'll figure something out.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. We'll do our best to get one out. Holly might have her laptop on me. I don't know if I'm gonna have my mic and everything on me though. So like,
I would just make sure you have
we'll
like your AirPods, because
yeah.
it's
Well, like I said, we'll try to work it out. I would hate to not have a reaction of next week's episode with it
being
being what
so
like
yeah such a big episode. Yeah.
yeah. So we'll do our best to work something out. So yeah, look for us. Probably maybe get a video
Yeah.
posted sometime around Wednesday or Thursday next
Yep.
week.
All right. See you
All right.
later.
Yeah. See you guys.